Because of the obvious threat to untold numbers of citizens, and because of the crisis which is even now developing, this radio station will remain on the air day and night.
Officials and newsmen at first discounted those eyewitness descriptions as being beyond belief. However, the reports persisted.
Listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to Boogeyman Radio. I am David, a.k.a. Adam Maitland.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, just a little Google search. You'll be like, oh, son of a bitch.
I'm Chuck. Hi. good to see everybody. Cassie, so happy you're here.
I guess I could probably just tell you who it is.
Probably, because
that'd ruin the fun, though. You want to know?
Yeah.
It's Adam from Beetlejuice, the dude of the couple, married couple, Alec Baldwin's character.
Ah. Nice. Very nice.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. See, I would have never guessed that.
No.
Never
Gotta
guessed
spice
that.
it up with a little Beetlejuice.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to go with this look, His big-eyed look.
Oh, yeah.
That Michael Keaton does for him.
Oh, man. Guys, we got a great freaking show for you today. You're going to learn.
Good to be back.
Something.
That's right. Hi, Lori. Hi, Kelly. And Cassie already, obviously. We're going to go through some history.
Oh, yeah. If you like history, you're going to love this. If you like conspiracy, you're going to love this. If you like true crime, you're going to love this. Oh, man, that would have been great.
That would have been a great idea.
Son of a bitch. Missed opportunities. I don't know. It's kind of obvious, though. It's a little too obvious, too. I mean, I don't know. The mood here tonight, man, is just like really awesome. We got rain.
Dude, it was raining all day today in Kansas City. Chef's kiss. I actually went outside and walked around. It was great.
We just have some light rain going on right now. I can hear it hitting the roof.
It was perfect for a Monday because Monday's the beginning of my weekend, so I just wanted to relax and not do a dang thing.
It's a vibe,
great.
Man.
It was a vibe. It was great today. I enjoyed my day.
Yes.
I probably took about 5 or 6 naps. It's that rain, man. I'm telling you what.
This combination of the rain and you kind of had a bit busy week.
I did. God, I did have a busy. I'm not even a busier week. Well, actually, this weekend's gonna be busy, and next weekend's gonna be busy.
Next week we're gonna be really busy.
Really busy.
So what?
Cassie knows what's up. Well, this past week, I worked, and not only that, I actually did more stuff than that. Right? I went with Jason Kupsik down to I'm going to say an antique store down in Aurora, Missouri. That's 2 weekends.
A little bit north.
Yeah. So it was about 3 hours. This is, about how long it takes to get down there. We made it back in good time. I had to work the next day. Man, I tell you, I did not want to go to work the next day. I got home around probably 12:58 and just relaxing and watching football because it's Sunday and it's NFL season. So, of course. Yeah. I was just laying around with my roommate, chilling over, we were just watching football. And I looked at the clock and it was like 1:30. I'm like, God dang it. Okay. All right. So I went and got paid to watch football because we were super slow at work. And there was some great games Sunday. But I guess I should probably talk about the investigation instead of football the entire time.
No, I don't know. Well, I'll just say, heartbreaking for both of us.
Oh,
heartbreaking weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, heartbreaking as of freaking 5 minutes ago too. My quarterback on my fantasy is Aaron Rodgers, and he just got carried out of the game. So that's great. Literally on the first drive, dude.
Hopefully, it's not something major.
Hopefully. Well, Kelsey, they thought it was going to be major, but I think they found out that it was just some sort of bruising or something. So hopefully that's it.
You just got a Charlie horse.
maybe. I mean, he could probably just be like, I want out. Ah! And he can come out. You know what I mean? Like, dude's like obviously more in shape than I am, but he's older for a tight end. So, nonetheless, he's going to be an all-star. So he is an all-star.
He'll be a Hall of Famer.
But the investigation, though, it was an interesting place.
Yeah. What kind of place was it?
Well, it was just an antique store. It was literally the only history that we knew of on the place was it was at once a legal brothel. So there was a train right behind the store, so that might have had some energy or something from it. It's literally across the street from where you guys investigated down there. So when you guys are over here, do you have like the 4-way stop? This way is leading up to the courthouse and stuff in the square. And the train tracks are like behind the building. I never investigated
in Aurora.
You didn't investigate with Kupsik? Are you sure?
Yep.
Maybe it was Rick then. I don't know. I thought he mentioned to you about investigating there. But anyways.
Mount Vernon, we did.
Oh, it's the hospital, Mount Vernon. Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's... I don't know. Either way. He'd been down there plenty of times before, but he'd never checked out this place. So we got to check it out. It was interesting.
Any ghosties?
Nothing definitive. There were definitely some weird things that happened, just some like noises, but nothing specific. There was at one point we were playing some old 1940s music, and a train was rolling by, or 1920s, sorry, like jazzy music. And there was a train rolling by, and Coops was like, hey, use the energy from the train, see if you can make a sound or do something for us. And we heard what sounded like a weird shuffle noise in the room. Like it sounded literally right next to us in the room. So my only other skeptical thing with that, though, is if there was a back engine on the back of the car or on the back of the train, it might have left off a sound, and that might have could have sounded like a shuffling. We could have mixed it up with shuffling. The thing is, train's outside, right? We're inside. Yeah. The sound sounded like it came from inside the room. So I can't, like I said, there was just multiple things happening that this could have been a factor, but we both reacted to it and we were like, what the hell was that? Yeah. So yeah, that, but then there were some other weird noises. And then I thought I heard like a female talking. We were in, what was the photography studio? It was some photography studio back in 2004. And I heard at first like some sound. Yeah. And I was just like, what the hell was that? And I looked at Coops. I was like, did you just hear that? He's like, no. So he came back from the other side of the room and walked towards me. And where it came from it sounded like it was behind me. So he came up and he went past me. And I turned around and watched him. And right when he got to like a specific part of the room, you hear like a sound. Huh. But I had him recreate it like 2 or 3 times, or like a time or two. And we couldn't get that noise to duplicate at all. So we don't, but it sounded the exact same, or not the exact same, not the same wave, pattern, but the pitch sounded the exact same of what I heard before. So, and he did hear that one. So we don't know what that could have been. It might have been somebody outside. You never know, mind you. There was definitely some what's it called? Not tampering, but
contamination.
Contamination. Thank you. There was definitely some contamination to this investigation. A lot. So I have breathing problems and I can't last very long in places that have a crap ton of dust, insulation just hanging from the ceiling. I'm not going to disclose the location. I'm just going to say black mold. I think it was black mold. I'm just saying the basement floods, and if it's not cleaned, that turns into mold. Mm-hmm. So there was definitely some mold down there, and I said, no thanks. So
it sounds like it was a case of like, hey, here's an old building. Let's try to go explore it and see if there's any activity.
Yes, but the thing is, though, the caretaker, it's the guy who helps the lady that runs the store, basically the guy who works in the building, he heard audible female voices. So it was interesting that Koopsik and I both heard a female voice back in the photo shop or the photo studio.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the only similarity, or the only similar thing that we like came across. Or like, what the hell was that? So there may actually be some things to this, but I will say we also had some individuals there at the investigation that did not really help with the investigation.
You're right.
So they were just more of like messing around and not actually investigating.
Screwed it all up.
Yeah, so it was really hard, and that's the thing is, it felt like at one point Coops and I were the only ones it felt like investigating. Everybody else was just hanging out outside. And when you do that, you're going to have a crap ton of talking. You're going to have a crap ton of and there's windows. Well,
yeah,
sound travels through windows.
Yep.
So you're kind of messing with the investigation here.
It's like when people go outside during an investigation while you're still inside investigating.
Yes.
But they go outside and they start laughing and carrying on. It's like, guys, shut up.
Mind you, I will say the only place I think you would have not been able to hear anything would have been the basement. But I was not going down there, not after what I had seen.
No.
And then, but another weird thing, we were also playing music up on the second floor, and they didn't hear us playing music outside.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah, they were outside. They didn't hear us playing music. So we were just like, okay, that was weird.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, the windows weren't actually windows. It was just cardboard and
wood and stuff like
just
that.
up against the window, like up against the hole and everything. So the building's old. It's got age. Like a lot of the buildings in the area were built around like 1890s is when they were built. So they're like, that town's old for sure. It's a mining town. So it's got a lot of history, and being a legal brothel, I wouldn't be surprised to hear females. The thing is also, I'll tell you this, when we were driving around the property, we noticed that kind of down the building a little way, there was 2 cars parked, like somebody was living in like the section next to where we were investigating. Wow. So was that them or a female that I had heard, but nobody else heard anything?
Right.
Or because there's supposed to be a bunch of concrete in between us, so that shouldn't be a thing, or brick at least.
Yeah.
But it's just the investigation was just contaminated all around with whether it be the trains, obviously the people especially. So I pretty much checked out by like 11:30. We went in this place at 9:00.
Yeah,
like I was just done with it. Like I was starting to get a headache because of all the dust and crap. And sorry,
thanks for the follow, Insomniac Radio. Appreciate
thanks for
that.
The follow
over on Kick.
Yeah. Oh, sweet, nice. Another one on Kick. Ciao. But other than that, my week's been great. This weekend I'm going to Branson, so can't wait for that one.
Yeah,
I'll probably be really tired Monday. Just saying.
You had an investigation last week. I got one this week. Coming up on Thursday, I'm going to be investigating a former mortuary and funeral home. We're going to be filming with KY3 NBC out of Springfield, Missouri, doing the Halloween story.
I'm definitely going to be asking you, like texting you, just so you know.
Yeah, kind of figured you might. I do plan on going live for a few minutes on TikTok there. So if you guys follow me on TikTok, go follow me over there at David_Glidden. You should be able to find me pretty easy. But I'm kind of excited for that. It's just going to be a small group, intimate. It's just myself, John, and Chad. So we can actually control the environment in the building as far as people go. So I'm pretty excited about that. I started doing some spirit box sessions this weekend.
Really?
On TikTok live. One night I did it outside at this one location, and then the next day on Sunday, I went to a cemetery with John, and we walked around the cemetery, showed some of the graves and stuff like that, and then I did about a 20-minute session throughout the cemetery. I think I'm gonna start doing that maybe once a week on TikTok.
Nice.
Hitting random cemeteries, museums, things like that. Just doing tours. Not necessarily doing spirit boxes everywhere, but like just walking around and showing some cool shit.
So I just want to say real quick on Kick. So much like Twitch, you could go through and search what we're talking about as far as like we're labeled podcast, right?
Yeah.
So when you click on the podcast, did you see where we are on that list?
No,
Like how many people that are broadcasting right now?
no.
We are, I believe, the 5th one. The
Oh,
first
cool.
one's 30 views, second one's 15, the third one's 4, next one's 3, next one's 3. So we're technically tied at 4th.
Right now
But
we have 5 viewers.
yeah,
So.
and I will say, nobody's talking about paranormal besides us on Kick right now. At currently live right now.
Beautiful.
But I mean, we're not really talking about paranormal. We're talking about conspiracy and murder. So
Yeah. Here in a minute.
yeah,
But yeah, so that's what's going on. That's what I've been doing this past
Nice.
week. Took some time off from work. It was nice. I went back to work today. Did not want to do that shit again.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, that's life.
Yeah.
But got home today. I was relieved, and getting into this subject for tonight, I'm pretty pumped because I've been wanting to do this for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, I was kind of curious to see how you were going to find yourself liking it.
Oh, I'm 100% interested.
So,
100%.
guys, let's kind of get into this a little bit. Tonight we're going to be talking about the death of Meriwether Lewis. If you're not familiar with Meriwether Lewis, here's a brief synopsis of this man. Lewis and Clark expeditions in the early 1800s. They were the ones that were tasked with finding the route to the Pacific by Thomas Jefferson. And obviously they made it over there and they came back. They were all heroes and all this. But then his life kind of took a turn. It was said that Lewis became an alcoholic. Some people said that maybe he couldn't handle the fame and that this fame got to him. But he ended up at a lodging house in Tennessee where he supposedly committed suicide. He died at the age of 35 on October 10th of 1809. Okay. So yeah, that's the rundown of that.
Yeah.
Fun fact: he was the governor of the Upper Louisiana Territory. Some information on him. He was also a confidant to Thomas Jefferson, and the partnership with William Clark was called the Corps of Discovery. And then what's interesting is his travel after all that, leading up to when he passed away. He was actually heading back down to Upper Louisiana, and then all of a sudden he makes this turn and to head to DC. I'm trying to think what he was heading to DC. It was said he was on his way to DC to settle financial matters.
Yeah.
But he took this trail called the Natchez Trail, and this trail was not a good place to be on, apparently, from all historic accounts. It's a very common place for robbery and murder and all this other stuff. So why he chose to take this trail is kind of odd, but maybe he thought, hey,
he didn't want to attract unwanted attention for certain reasons.
Yeah, he's like, I'm a guy, people know me.
Yeah,
right. I'm gonna have some accompaniment at some point, right? So he probably felt safer than most people would, I would assume. But he ended up staying at a lodging house called Grinder's Stand, and that's where he passed away.
Passed away from what? I'm kidding.
Well, this is where things kind of get interesting. So his death ultimately was revealed as a suicide. It was posted in the newspapers as being a suicide.
Right.
And you had an article we were going to start off with, right?
Yeah. But I was going to, if we could get into more of his death.
Life or death?
No, I was going to say of his death.
Okay. I'm trying not to give away too much too early because this gets really interesting.
Okay. So, let me find a spot here to start, really. Don't want to start there. So, but I guess before his death, he had become sick. Um, on November 13th, Lewis departed Fort Massac, a fort in the Ohio River. He suddenly fell ill. What I'm reading from is this Secretary of State, I believe John R. Ashcroft. He made it's entitled "A New Perspective on the Death of Meriwether Lewis," and it's a video transcript. So I'm reading the transcript from the video that he made, and he's got some great points. So I'm going to read this like he's presenting it to people. I'm going to read it basically straight from the article. So he goes, "Now I'm going to show you. This first slide is the exact words that he wrote in the journal. What you see, first of all, is that you can't make out the dates. And, of course, there's a lot of blank spaces. What's he leaving blank for? You don't really have to read it because I've transcribed it in the next slide, so you'll be able to read it. But what's interesting about it, it means only that he wrote this transcription later. He didn't write it the night that he was ill. So on. This is what he wrote. He said, left Massac in... is it Masick? I think it's Masick. I don't know.
Masick?
I think it's Masick. Yes, Fort Masick.
Not Massac. Massac's right here.
It's Massac. So he left Masick this evening about 5 o'clock, descended about 3 miles, and then camped on the southeast shore. Rained very hard in the evening, and I was seized with a violent ague, A-G-U-E, which continued for about 4 hours, and as is usual, was succeeded by a fever, which, however, fortunately bated in some measure by sunrise the next morning." So, next one he talks about like what egg means, whatever the word is. Yeah. So, given the parameters, did Lewis's hypochondria have a connection to the ague? Using Jefferson's own description and evidence from America's foremost physician of that date, Dr. Benjamin Rush, we can assign a physical cause to Lewis's illness, which was known as hypochondriasis. The malaria parasites are microscopic and live in the gut of a mosquito. The bite or sting of the mosquito transmits the parasite into the blood. Okay, whatever. So basically, he's talking about like what that is. So let's skip forward here a little bit. All right. So by the time Captain Lewis became Jefferson's secretary and then governor of St. Louis, he had traveled great distances for a man of his time. Military, private travel had taken him from Georgia to Michigan and from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific coast. Those wide travels meant that Lewis probably exposed himself to several mosquito genotypes and a likely candidate for what is called mixed infections, where more than one malaria parasite invades the host. Examples when Jefferson, Lewis, or Clark wrote about their illness are few because they did not recognize the features of malaria. However, one example shows how sick malaria made them. Historians have characterized this example as a humorous situation, not numerous, where everyone in the presidential mansion caught a cold. In retrospect, historians have completely misunderstood the seriousness of this radical malaria outbreak. So, Lewis also had a Cycronus attack. So this is just kind of illnesses leading up to this article of basically leading up to the time, and another theory on whether he was murdered or if he killed himself or if it's an accidental killed himself. Mm-hmm. So that's why I wanted to go over this article, because I thought it was an interesting twist in the case. Yeah. But we're going to definitely save the conspiracy stuff for later. So in March 1807, several persons visiting President Jefferson jointly experienced what is called today a synchronous attack. Yeah. Beyond demonstrating that malaria can strike in the middle of winter as easily in the summer months, the parasite depends upon the host's circadian rhythm, which signals the opportune time to proliferate. On March 2nd, Jefferson reported that his son-in-law, Thomas Mann Rudolph, had succumbed to a chill and fever, although a week earlier he had experienced the first attack. Jefferson had hoped Rudolph's fever that morning was so moderate that that might be the last one. However, it actually returned. 4 days later, Meriwether Lewis was attending to Rudolph along with Dr. Jones and nice for all you Indiana Jones fans out there, and the president's secretary Isaac Coles. Jefferson remarked that he had caught a very bad cold, which prompted historians to conclude that everyone at the president's house had caught his cold. The illness that affected several persons at the same time was a classic presentation of ague. So on March 11th, Lewis wrote that he had been indisposed and took some of Rush's pills. Jefferson complained of a periodical headache. That was his way of explaining the agues in the head, and that are also described today as a retroorbital headache, a sharp pain behind the eye. I hate those. Those suck. Wait, what the?
I get those every once in a while. Little headaches.
It's so funny. The emojis don't necessarily pop up for us sometimes.
Yeah, if you're trying to use emojis on YouTube and stuff, like we're not seeing the actual YouTube.
So we just see the word turquoise person turquoise waving. That's all I see.
That's all we see.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, what that's saying, in a nutshell, was like there was a form of malaria that they're saying that he may have contracted that was causing some illness within his body, and he'd carried that for a long time.
Yes, like a very long time. So now we're going to talk about some physicians.
Ooh.
So Captain Gilbert Russell, the officer who cared for Lewis at Fort Pickering, reported that when Lewis arrived, he was in a state of mental derangement. This derangement suggests mental incompetency, but Dr. Alibert remarked that every paroxysm of intermittent fever was evidently marked by a derangement of intellectual function, that a violent delirium could continue the whole day. At one point, a patient snapped out of the delirium, spoke rationally for a few minutes, and then soon relapsed again in such deep delirium that he could scarcely be kept in bed. So that whatever, like Lewis had caught some sort of different thing from the malaria, and it was called paroxysm.
Yeah,
and it's from the malaria fever, so it just made him go crazy. He lost his mind essentially for a little while.
And leading up to his death, that was one of the biggest things that they were talking about. Was not only was he a drunk, which, I mean, if you're on the frontier life, that was a common thing, drinking. But the fact that they were saying he had dementia, the people he traveled with would claim that he would have these bouts of dementia and violent fits of rage.
Yep.
And there was some people that even said that he tried to kill himself on 2 different occasions while traveling to Louisiana before he went to the Natchez Trace.
Yeah. So this is where we start to get into the actual, like, not murder, but the actual, like, crime scene, the death. Yeah. So, on September 29th, Lewis, James Neely, and the Chickasaw Indian agent Pernier, Lewis's servant, and Neely's Packer. Neely's Packer departed Fort Pickering. A few days later, Lewis became ill again, and the party rested for a couple days. On the day of the departure, one of the horses had run off in the night, and Neely had to search for it. That meant Lewis, Pernier, and the Packer finally arrived at Grinder's Hotel on October 10th. Upon his arrival, Priscilla Grinder could see that Lewis wasn't well. They finally retired Lewis to his room, Grinder to an adjacent room, and the servants to the bar. A few hours later, Priscilla Grinder was suddenly awakened by the sounds of gunshots. Too terrified to be of any assistance, She peeked through the lodge of the unshaken house and can see Lewis is struggling to his feet. He moved to the door, explaining out aloud his thirst. In 1829, John McCulloch, another English physician tending to Og patients, wrote about their pain and suffering. The patient feels a species of antipathy against some peculiar part of his body where he longs to commit the act by wounding that particular part. The impression is if the offending part could be exterminated or cured by the injury, the patient would then be well. So this was a common occurrence with this type of pain and suffering. So antipathy. Or
So,
not antipathy. Basically, just
in layman's terms,
yes.
basically you feel like if you extract or hurt that spot that is causing pain, you feel better.
Yeah.
So,
AKA if you get a tooth removed, all that pain's gone.
yeah,
The nerve's
have
no longer there. The nerve's dead.
you have like a lump on your stomach that's painful. You remove
Cut it out.
and you feel better.
Yeah.
So basically, what this is kind of leaning in towards is what happened to Meriwether. So, like you said, the innkeeper's wife, she heard several shots fired.
Yep.
Later on, she would go to claim that she saw Lewis crawling around, begging for water, but she was too afraid to help him. He would later die of bullet wounds. One to the head and to the abdomen.
Yes.
Shortly before sunrise, he'd passed away. So, if it's a suicide, if he's feeling this pain, he's going to try to extract it, right?
Yep.
Why would you shoot it? Because the reason I asked that is because when he came there, Lewis was actually armed with pistols, a tomahawk, knives, and rifles. He was armed to the teeth. You're going to tell me a guy that is a frontiersman is not going to have a knife to cut something out or cut something off?
Right.
Doesn't make sense.
Maybe he thought it was deep enough that he couldn't reach it with the knife, and the gun would be quicker.
Maybe.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. It's like that. It's like people itching a scratch, but the scratch doesn't stop itching. They dig it to blood. They get into the flesh because they itched it so much.
Yep.
But I mean, would that drive somebody to insanity? Enough of insanity to kill themselves?
Yep. So real quick, this article goes on to say, so here, we'll read into this. When Lewis directed the pistol at his forehead, he aimed at such an angle that when it fired, the bullet did not penetrate his skull. Satisfied with the result, he then may have decided to eliminate another pain near the hypochondrium. The pistol ball entered below the breast and once again did not kill him. Lewis performed these actions on himself in the midst of an acute attack of malaria. Every other known treatment that Lewis had tried for his malaria symptoms had also failed in the early morning of October 11th. He survived the wounds and lived for several hours. He died as the rising sun topped the trees. As a historian, not me, but this guy that writing the article, I see my job as requiring me to follow the evidence to see where it leads. In this case of telling the story of Meriwether Lewis's death, I have done just that. I have taken the commonly noted distress description of his illness and have found them to match not a psychological condition, but rather a physiological medical condition or medical condition of his day, namely the ague or malaria. So why would he have shot himself? Exactly. We just talked about that. The evidence points to various facts on the fatal night. Lewis was experiencing a severe malaria attack, and for intense pain, he wanted to take care of it.
Relieve it. Yeah.
Yes. But, so that is pretty much the new theory, is that he accidentally killed himself.
Now, yeah, there's some other things that, helped people assume to his suicide, not
Yes.
just with this illness, which is something that's new and being talked about, but according to the Smithsonian Magazine, I guess his friends assumed that it was suicide because before he left St. Louis, Lewis had given several associates the power to distribute his possessions in the event of his death. While traveling, he composed a will. Lewis had reportedly attempted to take his own life several times a few weeks earlier and was known to suffer from what Thomas Jefferson, called sensible depressions of mind. Clark also observed his companion's melancholy state, so William Clark also had observed this. At the time of his death, Lewis's depressive tendencies were compounded by other problems, such as him having financial troubles, and likely suffered from alcoholism and other illnesses. They even throw in syphilis, and malaria, the latter of which was known to cause bouts of dementia. They go on to say, surprisingly, he may have also felt like something of a failure. Though the Corps of Discovery had traversed thousands of miles of wilderness with few casualties, Lewis and Clark did not find the Northwest Passage to the Pacific, which was the mission's primary goal. The system of trading posts that they had established began to fall apart before the explorers returned home, and now Lewis, the consummate adventurer, suddenly found himself stuck in a desk job. And he probably wasn't having it. So yeah, they go on to say he was a horrible drunk, terribly depressed, and never even finished his journals. But he was also a human being, I mean,
yes.
They say he came back from these adventures and he just couldn't readjust. Like they use the comparison to a man who goes to the moon and coming back, but I see it more like somebody going off to like Afghanistan and having PTSD and coming back and just can't, or somebody that's in the military and can't get out of that military lifestyle and assimilate into regular society. So yeah. Now, when we say there's controversy over this issue, like we spilled out like a really good case for suicide, right? But there's been a lot of proponents of he wasn't suicidal, but he was murdered.
Yep.
Why would this man be murdered? What would he be murdered for? How was he murdered, and who murdered him? Right? Well, those are the questions you kind of have to ask yourself whenever somebody brings up the M word.
Yep.
Right?
Murder,
you say? Yeah, let's see here. So
real quick, the Spanish players who you wanted to introduce. I'll let you do that. I don't want to talk over your stuff.
I was going to bring up this. There's a guy.
General James Wilkinson.
Well, a modern guy.
I
just have his last name, Geis, who wrote a book by his own hand, The Mysterious Death of Meriwether Lewis. He goes on to say this was the apex of a hero's career. He was the governor of a huge territory. There were songs and poems written about him. This wasn't just anybody who kicked the bucket. And besides, how could an expert marksman botch his own suicide and be forced to shoot himself twice?
Right.
Geis believes that bandits roaming the notorious dangerous Natchez Trace killed Lewis. Other murder theories range from scandalous, like the innkeeper discovered Lewis in having an affair with Mrs. Grinder. And then there's conspiratorial, where there's corruption and a hatched assassination plot. Even Lewis's own mother is said to have believed that he was murdered. And that idea didn't really have much traction until the 1840s, when there was a commission of Tennesseans set out to honor Lewis by erecting a marker over his grave. And while examining the remains, the committee members wrote that it was more probable that he died at the hands of an assassin. And unfortunately, they didn't say why. But the science of autopsies has come a long way, and things come to light.
I'm just saying, this would be a great place to ghost hunt.
Yeah.
And if you could directly talk to Lewis, and like if he answered and like, yeah, maybe. I mean, it's worth a shot.
Wouldn't that be a cool show, like where you research historic deaths and then you go to those locations and you try to make contact to see if they can, bring to light information?
Yeah,
that'd be a
cool
cool
sweet.
I mean, you couldn't offer any of it as evidence of a crime, but yeah. So one of the things that was going to be done, or that could be done, like if they were to exhume his body now, you could examine the skull for fracture patterns, so you can decide if it was close range or whatever. You can analyze the gunpowder residue, what drugs he was using and stuff like that, so getting into the conspiratorial things, there's a list of players at hand.
Oh yeah.
You want to start that list?
Yeah. So we have a few people that are on the list. So his personal assistant, James Neely, is absolutely a suspect. Mm-hmm. And then General James Wilkinson. So this is another article that we found. So through letters between the Spanish government and General James Wilkinson, who was reportedly a double agent, Wilkinson had leaked information to the Spanish about the top secret mission Lewis and Clark had been on. So real quick, before we continue here, some believe that Lewis and Clark was on a very top secret mission by Thomas Jefferson.
Yes.
Now I don't know 100% what the mission was. I know you said something that was about
it's speculatory, but to claim land, you had to set up an establishment in a territory. So there were thoughts that the Spanish were trying to claim land in the northwest, and so they were sending Meriwether Lewis and Clark out to establish these outposts all the way to the Pacific, and they did establish an outpost out in the Pacific. There's legitimately one there, and in doing so, they actually stopped the Spanish from conquering the Northwest and moving up and taking land. So that was one of the things that they were tasked to do.
And and I believe two other researchers also looked into finding out if the Welsh had established land as well. So it was the Spanish and the Welsh that they were both not going after, but just trying to figure out if they were trying to take over land, or if they had taken over land previously than what they already had. So
one of the components to that, real quick, we're not going to go diving deep into it, but like the Brandenburg Stone in Kentucky was a stone that was found in the 1800s, believed to have had ancient Welsh scriptures on it, and it was translated by somebody, I can't think of their names, but for a long time, everybody believed this was a real stone that was legitimately carved out and everything. Yeah. But over time, it kind of became apparent that the stone itself was a hoax, because the guy was using it, taking it to carnivals and shit, and like showing it off and whatnot. He ended up breaking it into 3 pieces. It's sucks. Still like there's a library in Kentucky that has the stone. So it's an interesting stone.
But so a little bit more of the article leading back to what we were saying earlier. The Spanish wanted their own claim to the territory of Louisiana, and they could have sniffed the espionage. leading to them to kill Lewis. Moreover, he had built a fort in the contest territory, Fort Clatsop, in Oregon country near the mouth of Columbia River in 1805 to 1806, potentially declaring their ownership of the land. However, investigators find something more that leads them to believe there was another player. So, Lewis was appointed the governor of the Louisiana Territory in 1809.
Yeah.
At the time, he could have uncovered a conspiracy involving then Vice President Aaron Burr that could have had him assassinated. In letters between Wilkinson and the Spanish, the investigators find coded messages that mention Burr. They conclude that Burr had wanted to start an entirely different empire altogether, breaking away from the United States. A plan as big as that, if Lewis did stumble upon it, could have definitely got him killed.
Yes.
Right. They also find that Neely, his assistant, was mentioned in the letters, and he was chosen and appointed by Wilkinson. So was Neely possibly in on it as well. In his letters, Neely mentions that he had in his possession Lewis's papers, among other items. The day Lewis died, he had been off finding horses that had allegedly gone astray. But see, it's so weird that there's so many conflicting reports, because some is saying that it took him 12 hours to get there.
Yeah.
Did he really drive 12 hours away? That's crazy. Just to find some horse, or not ride 12 hours away just to find some horses?
Yeah. Well, and then, 12 hours then probably would have, who knows, could have been like 20 miles away.
Right. But, so before we get into the key item, is there anything else that you wanted to say?
I wanted to bring up a little bit more about Wilkinson here.
Yeah, go for it.
So, and also, I'm going to throw out there a little tidbit of information too. Like when Lewis was found dead, he did have a journal on him.
Yeah.
But there were pages missing out of that journal.
Yep.
And the speculation was that he was on his way to D.C. to settle financial matters. But what possibly would have gotten him killed was he was on his way to D.C. to let Thomas Jefferson know about Aaron Burr's treason.
Yep. And if he put anything in that journal about that treason, that stuff was ripped out of the journal.
If he had decoded stuff, some of the things that he had found, if he had, or if there were establishments out on the Pacific, like he probably would have listed them and had details about it. So there was information he was carrying, which, if he's going to take him to DC and you want to stop him, you got to kill him, right?
That's right.
So one of the assassins, you started mentioning him, that is rumored to be one of the assassins, was General James Wilkinson, who was commanding general of the U.S. Army, was also known as Spanish Agent 13 in Spanish records, which revealed Wilkinson received $26,000 in payments from 1787 to 1804. These payments were the focus of several congressional investigations and military courts. Though the charges were never proven during the general's lifetime, historian Frederick Jackson Turner called Wilkinson the most consummate artist in treason the nation has ever produced. The evidence for Wilkinson assassinating Lewis consists of 4 parts. Number 1, the general's reputation as an assassin, proof that the suicide account of Lewis's death is a lie, a cover-up produced by Wilkinson known as the Russell Statement, and 4, his involvement with liberating Mexico after Lewis had died. So I'm going to go into this first part, the general's reputation as an assassin.
Okay.
Accusations of General Wilkinson being an assassin are found in 3 places in the historic record. General Anthony Wayne, commanding general of the U.S. Army, called Wilkinson that vile assassin in a letter to Secretary of War Henry Dearborn in 1795. Senator Humphrey Marshall of Kentucky in his 1812 History of Kentucky, accused Wilkinson of assassinating officers Hardin and Truman and attempting to assassinate himself, Marshall, in 1792. So, secretary is claiming that he had assassinated, like that Wilkinson had actually assassinated some people. And then Major Gilbert C. Russell testified under oath at Wilkinson's court-martial on November 5th, 1811, that Major Seth Hunt told him Wilkinson had tried to assassinate him in 1806. So this guy that's written this book, he goes into accused Wilkinson of arranging the assassination of Wayne by arsenic poisoning. General Wayne died of stomach gout on December 15th of 1796 on his way to Philadelphia to answer charges by his second in command, Wilkinson. Only one general would be needed in the peacetime army, and Wayne's death automatically gave command of the army to Wilkinson. Proof that the suicide account of Lewis is a lie. Governor Meriwether Lewis was on his way from St. Louis to Washington in September 1809 to protest the federal government's refusal to reimburse him for expenses, supposedly. After his death, the government reimbursed his estate $5,267. Lewis died under mysterious circumstances. The account of his suicide is contained in a letter written by President Jefferson on October 18th. The letter was supposedly from Indian agent James Neely, who was serving as Lewis's escort on the Natchez Trace. The letter itself was written in Nashville, Tennessee by Captain John Brahan, who wrote an almost identical letter to the president. The supposed letter from Neely in Brahan's handwriting was signed with a forged signature. Coincidentally, on the same day, Neely was writing a letter to the Secretary of War from his Indian agency near Tupelo, Mississippi. The whereabouts of James Neely during the last days of Lewis's life are the subject of new evidence discovered by Tennessee attorney Tony Turnbow. Neely claimed he was looking for 2 lost horses, and wasn't present at the scene of Lewis's death at Grinder's Stand. Turnbow discovered instead that Neely was being sued for debt in a Franklin, Tennessee courtroom on the day Lewis died. And they proposed that Neely was recruited at the last minute to participate in a conspiracy to assassinate Lewis and had arranged for the assassination to fit his long-standing commitment to appear in court. So Governor Lewis was traveling by boat. When he arrived at Fort Pickering, he changed his plans and decided to travel overland on the Natchez Trace. Major Gilbert C. Russell, the commander of the fort, wrote 2 letters to President Jefferson concerning the last days of Lewis's life. The contents of these letters contradict the so-called Russell statement produced by General Wilkinson's court-martial in 1811. So, Lewis was buried in the yard of the inn where he died. His death was not investigated. In 1848, the state of Tennessee established a commission to erect a monument. The commission opened his grave, and their final report wrote, "It seems to be more probable that he died at the hands of an assassin." So there were some details about his death that would suggest there was an assassin, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And without going too far into the new discoveries, what were some of the things that, we were talking about earlier, some of the signs that there was a potential attack?
Well, okay, so the one major one was the knife wounds. So, unless people would think if he was trying to kill himself, he'd try to do it with a knife. Well, that didn't happen, so then he would shoot himself. But to me, depending on where the knife wounds were located, could have shown a sign of distress. Also, you would think that a shot to the face would have killed somebody, but apparently it didn't. Unfortunately, we don't know the order, right? Like which shots took place first, whether it be in the gut or up in the
face.
head. So,
Yeah.
but the fact that this chick in her story, Mrs. Grinder or Ms. Grinder, whatever her name is,
Evil bitch.
they saw him, or she saw him like moving around and trying to get up, and actually asked for some water because he was thirsty. Like that's huge. That to me, like, he wasn't dead yet, right? Like, but he didn't say anything about like
Being shot or
being
anything
shot
like
or being attacked or anything like that. Like, he just like, I'm thirsty, and then like died. So, but that's her claim. But here's the thing: if there was an assassin, they could have threatened to kill her if she said anything. So,
and she's changed her story like 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
This whole process.
Yeah.
And in regard to the knife wounds, they've been described as defensive wounds.
Yeah.
So you know, it's got to be on the arms.
But I feel like Lewis would know how to hold his own. But him being sick, and if they got him with the knife wounds first, he's going to be weak. So
if he's sick, he's going to be weak. If it's an assassin, like, they could have been trying to be stealthy about it and trying to get him with a knife
at first,
and then grabbed a gun and shot him.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the gun, you're going to make loud sounds, so you're going to try to escape real quick. Bounce.
Yeah.
So
also, why was he? To me, if he knew something and he knew people were after him, why was he armed to the teeth? Why was he so armed with equipment?
Yeah. It says that he showed up in Grider's stand with pistols, a tomahawk, knives, rifles. I mean, this guy
was ready to go.
He knew something was up.
Yeah,
had to protect himself. So,
and he did have people with him, but his person wasn't with him. So, whether it's fate or a likely story for him to go look for some horses.
And again, he changed his travel plans.
Yeah,
like he was going to take the boat.
Yeah,
and then decided, oh nope, I'm going to go on land and take the trail.
That's changed, but now let's get into the newest evidence that I've seen that has come forward. Unless you have more stuff.
I do have some more stuff about Wilkinson here.
Jesus.
We're
getting deep on this Wilkinson guy.
Okay, so where is it? There was a statement that was examined by 2 handwriting experts during the coroner's inquest held in Tennessee in 1996. They testified it was neither written nor signed by Major Russell. The Russell statement was not signed by Major Russell.
Interesting.
It was dated November 26th of 1811. The statement was written in the distinctive handwriting of a scribe whom General Wilkinson used on other occasions. General Wilkinson was undergoing a court-martial in Fredericktown, Maryland, to clear his name of being a Spanish agent and mismanaging the army in New Orleans. He was acquitted of all charges. The Russell statement says that Lewis made 2 attempts to kill himself while on the boat. Major Russell made no mention of this in his letters to President Thomas Jefferson. It concludes with a chilling description of Lewis's suicide. He lay down and died with the declaration to the boy that he had killed himself to deprive his enemies of the pleasure and honor of doing it. This is what he said. They said that Lewis said.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
The interesting question is, why would General Wilkinson, in the midst of a court-martial, create a forgery concerning Lewis's suicide?
Evidence. Cover
the answer. Yeah, the answer appears to be that Russell had testified under oath a few weeks earlier that Wilkinson had tried to assassinate Major Hunt. So Russell was trying to pin an assassination on Wilkinson earlier, and now Wilkinson's trying to use Russell to say that he didn't do it, or that Lewis was a suicide.
Interesting.
Records show that Major Russell went AWOL during the month of December and reappeared after Wilkinson's acquittal.
Yeah, interesting.
A few weeks later, Russell was appointed to lieutenant colonel.
Well, I find it interesting that since Neely was appointed and picked by Wilkinson, He gets sent off to go do whatever. Like and I told you this earlier, there's actually an article in the Lewis and Clark website of the man that abandoned him. Like just the man that straight abandoned him.
Neely.
Like, yeah, it just, so there was definitely there's some rough thoughts throughout history about this guy. So let's just say his ties were still, true.
I have one more little snippet here, and this is basically describing Wilkinson's motive for killing Lewis.
Okay.
So the author proposed the motive was to prevent Lewis from bringing information to Washington regarding the crooked land deals involving Wilkinson, John Smith T., a mine operator in the lead mine district of South St. Louis. Wilkinson had been the first governor of Upper Louisiana in 1805 to 1806. Lewis was bringing lead mine records to Washington. After his death, his papers were inventoried and bundled and entrusted to the care of Thomas Freeman, a Wilkinson associate. They arrived in Washington in total disorder. Wilkinson and his distant relatives, the Smith brothers, were conspiring to participate in Father Hidalgo's revolution for Mexican independence in 1810.
Wow.
The silver mines in Mexico, which produced the world's hard currency, were the object of numerous foreign and domestic conspiracies.
Dude.
A few weeks later after Lewis's death, A few weeks later after Lewis's death became known in St. Louis, Reuben Smith set out with a small advance party to Santa Fe. They were captured by the Spanish and imprisoned for 2 years. While in prison, they witnessed Father Hidalgo's execution. Upon their release, they joined the Gutierrez McGee filibuster expedition into Spanish Texas. McGee was Wilkinson's protege, and Wilkinson's son served in his expedition. Wilkinson died in Mexico City in 1825 while waiting to receive a Texas land grant. So Wilkinson had a history of assassinating or attempting to assassinate.
I was going to say, this sounds like Lewis died. He continued on with his plan. If he got caught like that, it says he was caught. Wilkinson was caught, right?
No, Wilkinson was in Mexico. He died in Mexico.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he was caught doing something with the president, or not with the president.
Not with the president, but
what'd you say earlier? That he was
that it was kind of like a land grab.
No, even before that,
mining rights and shit.
Yeah, but I just could have sworn you said something before that.
Let's see here. Let me scroll back here. Yeah, there was they said Lewis was possibly bringing information to Washington regarding crooked land deals involving Wilkinson and a mine operator in the lead mine district of St. Louis.
Past that.
But they were conspiring to participate in Father Hidalgo's revolution for Mexican independence. The silver mines of Mexico produced the world's hard currency.
So did that get found out that they actually were doing that right there? What you just said? Yeah. Okay. So that right there was then trying to continue with their plans, but then they got caught trying to continue their plans by somebody else. Yeah, so that could have been right. That could have been what got Lewis killed right there. Was he was about to say that to Washington ahead of time, and then the Wilkinson said no and killed him, and then he gets caught again later on. So imagine if he wouldn't have gotten caught, and that other person that, or whoever knew that info that caught them, or that was reported, like, that just shows that was the plan right there, and it ultimately came to light even after Lewis's death. Right.
Now you were going to bring up some information.
Kelly wanted to say something, though. She says, if Lewis was sick enough to be delirious, why the heck would he be traveling? That makes no sense. I agree.
And, he was that's what he did. He was a journeyman. He was an explorer. they keep making this excuse that he was so accustomed to the life of exploration and traveling
Right.
through the frontier that like any resemblance of a normal regular day-to-day job was crushing him. But the guy was the governor of
To be
the
fair,
frickin' Louisiana Territory.
right. But to be fair, the peroxide thing, I think that was before this trip happened. Was it or no? I don't know. Well, maybe it's just because this trip is separate from the trip with Lewis and Clark to go to Spain. I think that was the trip that he had the craziness, right? Or was it after?
Well, Lewis or William Clark even noted
Okay.
Lewis's behaviors.
Yeah.
So
yes. So after the trip of Lewis and Clark, they had returned from the expedition and established himself as governor of St. Louis. Jefferson said that Lewis was in a paroxysm when he rendered him necessary to return to Washington. The term paroxysm may just seem... Okay, so the paroxysm happened at the tail end or the end of their trip, of the Lewis and Clark trip. So he wasn't out of it to be traveling, but the sick thing... I don't think he was delirious at that trip. This was a different trip. The trip where it was just him, Neely, and then another guy and another person. That was a completely different trip from the Lewis and Clark trip. This was a completely separate trip. So I don't think he was delirious.
With those bouts of malaria, like they would happen periodically, like every other day or every day, every 3 days, something like that, where you'd have these bouts of sickness followed with fever and all this. So brings to stand your point there, Kelly. If he was sick, if he's that sick, why aren't you trying to get help for it? And why are you traveling?
Yeah. And that was in March of when he got sick. This trip
for half a year.
Yeah, this trip was in September, I believe. So yeah, it wasn't too long after, but who knows? Maybe something else, like maybe he was feeling better,
So let's get into this new find.
So, two investigators. I just had their name. Give me a second here. I literally just had it. Yeah, well, 2021.
This is the part of history that nobody will ever hear about unless they actually dig it up.
Like, because I had no idea this thing even existed.
Like all this conspiracy and
the cloth specifically.
Oh yeah. So should I preface it with like?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, preface it.
Yeah. So Meriwether Lewis was a Freemason, and you could throw the Freemason conspiracy out there too. Like he knew something, it was a Masonic thing, but he did have a Masonic meeting that night, and I don't think that was ever really brought up.
No,
he went to a local lodge that was near Grinder's stand.
Yep.
And he was still wearing his apron when he died.
Yeah. Like there was blood on his apron. So the investigators of a company called Quest took this up. The show is Unexplained and Unexplored.
Yes, I watched it too.
Right. So they were the ones that were able to find the secret code in the letters between the Spanish and Wilkinson. So they were the ones that were able to link that together in the show. But then also they're like, well, hey, let's do an autopsy or a DNA test of the blood that's on this cloth. And their names are Justin Fornell and Emiliano Rupra. So yes, they're those two guys. But the two things that they found, well, I guess it's one big thing. There's two different sets of male DNA blood on that apron.
On Lewis Meriwether's Masonic apron.
So,
which tells us that there was a struggle.
That says there was a struggle for 2 separate sets of male blood. And the only person inside that place was Priscilla Grinder.
That we know of.
Supposedly. She is the only witness. Interesting how that is.
Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, and by the way, guys, that show is actually on Discovery Plus.
Yeah, you can go watch it. You can watch that episode.
And
I just watched a snippet of it tonight. But yeah, 2 different sets of male DNA. Why has nobody ever thought to do this? Nobody else, you know?
Well, here's the thing. There's a Masonic Lodge in Utah is where it's located now. And they have it protected behind glass. And they were the first ones to actually get access to do a DNA swab of it, like a modern one.
Yeah.
And they allowed it. Of course, now technology is so non-invasive that we can do stuff like that. But yeah, that just blows this whole thing wide open.
Yeah, who is the second person?
Yeah, was this the killer? Was this somebody that like had a cough where they're coughing up blood and just happened to get a little splatter on his apron at the Masonic Lodge or something? Or
what if Lewis tried to defend himself with a knife?
Defensive wounds.
And he tried to defend himself. So he may have got that other person. Bing, bang, boom. And, you know, when you look at blood on the floor, it looks like the same thing.
Well, was it, I think the innkeeper's wife, she said at one point she heard 3 shots. But Meriwether was shot once in the gut and shot once in the head.
Yeah.
Where was that 3rd shot hit? Did it hit the attacker? Did some of that blood come from that one?
You know, that makes a good point where what if that attacker was shot once and then like the attacker was trying to kill him with knives, right? And then Lewis struggled, pulled out the pistol and said, no, probably shot him in the gut or something. And then, or nicked him somewhere. I don't know.
Or hit him in the arms or legs or something.
Yeah, somewhere.
And the attacker shot him twice and then bolted because he thought he was dead. Because you shoot him you shoot somebody in the head, you think they're going to die. So boom, it's got to be the last shot, and you take off, right?
And he probably scrounged around for that second pistol unless he had 2 shots loaded. But still,
and maybe she walked in on it, and he pointed the gun at her and said, "Don't you say a word to anybody."
Yeah, because if she did, if he would have killed her, that would have been straight out murder. Or it would have been, we would have known it was a murder. Yeah. Or if somebody could have been like, well, Lewis killed her and then killed himself. Like, they could have done that, but still, taking out the only witness says a lot.
Mm-hmm. It shows a lot, too, and it waves a red flag.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they did threaten her, honestly. That's a big red flag.
So,
but Cassie, I'm glad we can help you tonight with all that learning.
Yes.
But that evidence was actually found. The show, I think, actually came out in 2021, so it might have been found back in 2020. But it's so fascinating that they found 2 different sets of male DNA. That tells me murder, 100%.
And I didn't know any of this. Like,
I didn't either. I thought Lewis, when you learn about Lewis and Clark, you don't really learn about all this at all.
No. This is
you just learn about the major expedition, and that's it. Yeah, this is some cool stuff.
The death of an icon.
Yeah.
But now what's amazing behind it is like government plots were happening way back then. Guys, this
shows you what else could be out there.
What could they be doing now? Keep an eye to the sky.
History is written by the winners.
Yep.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did, Lori.
Yeah. And there's plenty of more information out there. Like, there's information about Neely and what he was doing, as well as some of these other people that were might seem like small players, but they definitely had bigger parts, like Aaron Burr and Thomas Jefferson, at which Jefferson himself was a Freemason. Yep. And so was Aaron Burr.
Yep.
Damn Freemasons rule the world. Or at least the United States. Maybe the world.
Maybe. Maybe the world. Maybe
the world.
Maybe.
So yeah, guys,
It's called I think it's Unexplored and Unexplained. Or sorry, no, reverse that. Unexplained and Unexplored. I believe. Let me check it. I'll look it up here real quick. Exactly.
But while you're looking that up, guys, if you haven't yet, you can help support the show by going to the Haunting History Store. Let me get that off there.
Yeah, Unexplained and Unexplored. That's what it is.
Go to the hauntinghistory.threadless.com, get you a t-shirt. Right there in the middle we have the Boogeyman Radio t-shirt, as well as like the shirt I'm wearing right now, the It's Not Paranormal, It's Paratainment, the Poultry Guy shirt, Haunting History shirts, all that. But if you want to support the show, get you a Boogeyman Radio shirt, do what Cassie did, take you a picture and send it to us. We'll give you a shout out, and we definitely appreciate everybody who's done that so far. It goes to help our show here and helps us do some really cool content for you guys, like vlogs and whatnot. But yeah, I was so super stoked to do this topic.
Oh, me too, man.
I thought it was a good one for everybody to learn some weird shit, crazy shit.
Yeah, me too. They'll make you famous.
I'll make it famous.
I need to get a new one for the trip. I need to get a new shirt, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, because the other one I have, the black is just like fading to a slight black.
Yeah.
And then the
lettering and stuff's breaking up.
Well, no, it's just I have cats and they put a hole in it, so it's like.
That's right.
Yeah, no, it sucks.
Good night, Kelly.
Good night, Kelly. But yeah, we were saying the same thing, Lori. We were thinking that how cool would it be to go there and just do a little bit of an investigation, see if he answers, and see if maybe the true intentions on how he died came out.
Maybe the name of the assassin.
Wouldn't that be interesting? What if it was her? What if she was the killer? Miss Grinder.
Who? She caught her husband having sex with him, and she's like,
no, maybe she just like, I hate you, I don't like you, you're not welcome around here, and just like killed him.
I don't know. Gays were executed. Maybe she's like, not up in here.
No, I'm just
kidding. I mean, with a name like Meriwether
and Grinder, you never. Anyways, her husband's name was Grinder, so you never know. But no, I mean, she had the knives in the house. You know, they had a kitchen. Guarantee there was some knives there.
Yeah,
just saying.
You son of a bitch.
Maybe he like mistreated her or something, and she was like, "I'm a self-defense," and changed her phrase.
He didn't finish all the food she made him.
Oh yeah, there you go. Rage, just what most women want to do to their husbands.
Everything is on your place.
Yeah, right. But give you hospitality, and this is how you treat us. Anyways,
that was not the outhouse. That was my bed.
Hey, if he was delirious, you wouldn't know the difference.
He was a drunk.
Good old Joe Biden.
Maybe he pissed on somebody while they're sleeping.
He ambered the bed. It's fine.
Oh, look, she left me a little mint. Oh.
I mean, see, Lori's catching on. Maybe, like you said, maybe he was having an affair with the husband.
A lot of kinky shit happened. The Freemasons.
Was Lewis married?
I don't know. I don't think he was.
Huh. You're going to tell me he was on a long exploration with another dude.
A lot of dudes.
A lot of dudes. And one chick who looked awfully dudeish. That's questionable. Just saying.
I don't want to say this, but this like the would suck some dick.
Oh, I'm not gonna say that, but oh gosh, dude.
All right, we're canceled now.
We're canceled. I thought he was just gonna say he looked a little flamboyant, but it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't think he was married.
Yeah, probably not.
I would assume this guy was a badass though. Like if he's
I would have too.
Like, going through the frontier though, like being one of the people that survived going there and back at that time.
Oh wow, yeah.
I wrestled a bear.
I wonder how much supplies they would have had to take for that. That's crazy.
Well, they said they established trading posts on the way out there.
Oh,
they did
good.
a lot of fur trading and stuff like that with the natives, and
That must have been a long expedition. Long. Brokeback Part 1.
that's the inspiration for it.
Oh, God. Exactly. Up in the mountains. It's cold up there.
That's your gun.
The
bigger
fur
than
can
my
only
hip?
the fur can only go so far.
Where's your hand? Right here between these two pillows.
Is that pistol locked and loaded?
Your
kidding.
gun digging into my-
I'm kidding. This is funny. But no, I really definitely
blanks over here.
this. I love histories. This was to me a great subject, and it was not a topic I would have ever expected to cover because, like we said before, I had no idea this existed. No idea. I wonder what else. What other dark histories through history?
That is something I think needs some exploration. Though. It's like, what else are we not being told
Oh yeah.
about events in history or people of history? You know,
Oh
like
yeah.
what happened to George Washington before he?
I mean-
what was that? Before he crossed the Delaware, he
Right.
had like some vision or some shit. You know, maybe he got visited by aliens or like, hey, do this.
Maybe.
It'll be cool. You'll be fine.
I mean, if they wouldn't have gotten caught, I'm sure Monica Lewinsky would have just been swept under the podium.
Hey.
it's every politician. They get caught with something, they just lie, constantly lie about it, and then once it's
Just
discovered,
say,
it's like, well, guess we got caught, boys.
You got to pick Monica Lewinsky up, and her jacket just sticks to the floor,
Oh,
rips off like Velcro. Oh God!
that's some great styler for your hair, though. Just kidding. Kind of. Anyways,
Where did this show go?
I don't know. But, I mean, do you have anything else? Because I don't have anything
No.
else.
That's gonna be it for me, guys. I don't. We don't have any plans yet for next week's show, but
It's a mystery.
we will let you know if and when we come up with something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you tying my shoe down there?
He got cut off today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you about it. Yeah. Anyways.
All right.
Everybody, thanks for joining us. Appreciate
Yeah.
it. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see y'all next week.
Thank you for stopping by. Ta ta.